I am all for Nintendo re-releasing their previously released games in a new way on the Nintendo Switch, whether it's a full-on remake, through an anniversary collection, or a Wii U port. There's no denying that even though this stuff doesn't happen all that often with first-party Nintendo games, it's beyond cool when it does. Unless they have no value in them if you already own the originals, just saying. And that brings up an interesting question in my more discussion-based series of videos. What kinds of re-released Nintendo games, whether they're ports from previous consoles, full-on remakes, or anniversary collections, do I see value in? I don't know, but that's what I want to discuss. So, for today's video, I'm going to talk about what Nintendo re-releases that I see value in. Whether they're ports, remakes, or anniversary, you get the idea. Damn it, I was this close to having a decent intro. Let's start with ports from previous Nintendo consoles, most commonly Wii U ports, and of course we have to start with those. I make these videos for a reason. If you're a hardcore Nintendo fan, then by this point you know the Nintendo Switch's predecessor, the Wii U, sold like garbage during its era despite having some truly great games on it. But that sadly didn't do much for its sales, as it only sold a pathetic amount, being a little over 13 million units, while the Nintendo Switch has surpassed that and it's not even 5 years old yet. But because of the Wii U's unsuccessful nature, barely anyone got to experience its gems like Mario Kart 8 and Super Mario 3D World. But because the Nintendo Switch is the Nintendo powerhouse that it is, and almost 100 million people own the thing, there's no reason not to re-release the Wii U's games in a new way, like adding extra content to the package and also a lower price.
Why do I say these things when I'm recording?
Okay, so most Wii U ports are full price, the same price as brand new games actually, and sometimes even more than games that aren't even out yet. And I'll be the first to say that I am against this decision, but I'm willing to make the slight exception of being okay with it if the game has enough new content or changes on top of the old content to justify it being full price. Some games like the recent Super Mario 3D World port with the Bowser's Fury expansion does, as a matter of fact, have enough content. Not just because it has a brand new side game that's, albeit short, but still really good, but also because there was effort made for the main game itself, like increasing the running speed and adding multiplayer to the Captain Toad levels. This and also Mario Kart 8 Deluxe does enough to justify these older games being full price, even though I still probably would have preferred them being cheaper. But, on the other hand, you have Wii U ports that make you wonder why you should even bother buying it again on Switch for full price if you already own the originals, like the Wii U port of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, for example. This is the reason I don't own many Wii U ports. Now, I'm not knocking the game itself here, because Tropical Freeze is quite honestly the best modern 2D platformer ever made, and I highly recommend the game on either Wii U or Switch, but not both. Why? Because while I do think the Switch version is the superior version, despite me not owning it, I mean, you could play the game portably, and who wouldn't love that? Probably people who doesn't like overpriced games that was from 7 years ago. But this game is from 2014 and is $60, and literally the only new addition to this game is a damn easy mode. Yes, Tropical Freeze is an amazing game with tough level design. It makes sense to have an easy mode here. But this 7-year-old game is $60, and the new Funky Kong Easy mode is the only new addition to this package. No extra levels, no new modes, nothing, which is pretty lame, and honestly, for as awesome as the game itself is, it's sad to say that this is one of the laziest overpriced Wii U ports on Switch yet, unfortunately. Again, I'm not hating on the game or saying nobody should buy it. I mean, I only really recommend the Switch version for people who hasn't played or owned the original Wii U game. But I would like to see more effort in this version though. Other than that, Tropical Freeze is fantastic. And to sum up the Wii U ports section of the video, I'd say the best Wii U ports or ports from other consoles are games that have enough new content on top of the old content to make it worth its asking price. But if it's a situation like Tropical Freeze and also New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, then I'm a bit mixed on it. And the reason I'm mentioning New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is because yes, it's 2 games in one, but both games don't have any major improvements aside from Toadette and Nabbit easy modes, which always seemed odd because yes, not everyone is good at Mario games, but New Super Mario Bros. U isn't really that hard of a game until you get to the, spoilers, skip to 10 seconds if you don't want to hear, the game's post-game. I have not played New Super Luigi U or owned the Switch port in general, however, but I heard that the game was much more challenging, so maybe it makes sense to have an easy mode in that game, and I understand that an easy mode would make the game more accessible, But the easy mode is the least of my problems because while I don't actually, I still think you should play it if you didn't play it on Wii U. But yeah, those are the examples of Wii U ports that you should only buy the Switch version for. But I will say though that even though most Wii U ports have either been ported to the Switch or got sequels on said system, there is still a few that remain as just a Wii U game, and one of which is Nes Remix Pack. I have been patiently waiting for this game to jump to Switch with an SNES Remix Pack on the side, and if I don't get what I want in the next 2 years because only my requests matter and my request only, I will become a PlayStation fan. Simple as that. Now we get to the Anniversary Collection segment, specifically Super Mario 3D All-Stars. This collection gets mixed reception from Nintendo fans. People either think this is a great way to experience Mario's 3D back catalog of classic games on the Switch, or think this is a rushed attempt at celebrating the franchise's 35th anniversary. But for me, I'm kinda on the fence about it. Super Mario 3D All-Stars is a collection of games like the SNES and arguably the Wii game too, but unlike that collection where the games that were featured were fully remade with 16-bit graphics and music, 3D All-Stars was only the original games from their respective systems with the exception of Mario 64, using a 1997 Japanese exclusive re-release. Not to mention no bonus content like development insight or concept art, just an underwhelming music player that I would have liked a lot more if it wasn't the only content there was. But the games themselves are still really fun, even if Mario 64 does slightly show its age a little in this collection, and Sunshine's atrocious blue coins objectives not being fleshed out at all, and Galaxy's awful screen controls for the pointer. But aside from those minor inconveniences, I still found 3D All-Stars to be a great way to experience these games again, and I had a blast with it all the same. But as for whether it's worth full price or not is a bit hard to justify. I mean, it doesn't really matter that much anymore since that game stopped production back in March, and I even made a video ranting about it at the time, so if you want to, check it out. You may be disappointed that I didn't do enough ranting in that video anyways. But if you still see leftover copies of 3D All-Stars on store shelves like I do, then there's a pretty good chance it's still $60. But what makes 3D All-Stars appealing is the fact that it's some of the best games of all time playable on Switch, and 3 of them at that. So maybe that makes 3D All-Stars a $60 retail price worth it, but other collections like the Crash and Spyro trilogies, which features the franchise's original 3 games, fully remastered, thus resulting in more effort, and not being full price, which is honestly just kinda hilarious. But because these are 3 of some of the most critically acclaimed games of all time playable on Switch, I'd say it's a decision for you to make, as I'm not really sure in this instance. Yes, 3D All-Stars looks as though there wasn't much effort put into it compared to the other games I just mentioned. But it's 2 amazing 3D platformers and 1 great one. Now the final segment in this video is remakes. Say the Link's Awakening remake or SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. I think I'm the only person on the entirety of YouTube to put those 2 things in the same sentence. I am so sorry. The Link's Awakening remake on Switch is really great, with a great art style and the fun top-down 2D Zelda gameplay that we all know and love. It really is a great game, but this is a $60 remake of a game from 1993. And there was definitely more effort put into this game than 3D All-Stars, I'm not denying that. But I don't think $60 was a reasonable price. Aside from the main game, there's a dungeon builder mode that lets you take rooms from the game's 8 main dungeons to basically make your own, which is fun to do, but there's no way to share them, and to me, it gets boring rather quickly anyways, and this is the only bonus content there was, which I feel is a missed opportunity. I know you're probably furious with me for saying that, and I will just say for the record that yes, I am nitpicking. At least, they could have added along with sharing the dungeons you make online, getting a Mario Maker 2 or Game Builder Garage community going, but also add stuff like post-game content or a boss rush or something to add more replay value to the package, because once you're done, you're generally done unless you see a lot of replay value in the dungeon builder, and I kinda think that it takes a little bit away from the $60 price, and instead it should have been $40 at the very minimum. But what about Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated? That game isn't full price, and it's also a remake. And also, it's not a first-party Nintendo game, and I just felt like it was important to bring it up since it is a remake after all. I personally think it's a good enough game for me to recommend it despite its lack of polish. But aside from the main game, there's a multiplayer mode. Exclusive to this version only, and questions about whether it's good or not? This mode is not good. It's boring, repetitive, and overly simplistic for its own good that it really didn't even need to be here. The core game itself is good, but this mode isn't. This is a situation where a multiplayer mode was shoehorned in just to have an excuse to have a multiplayer mode in the game itself, and it's just bad. I feel like this game would have benefited from an actual multiplayer mode similar to that of Luigi's Mansion 3's Scare-Scraper mode, with you and your friends in a giant level and how you and your team have to complete a random objective in each round. I feel like that would have been a better fit for a game like this instead of just mindlessly taking out the same set of robots on different islands. But for the game's asking price of $30 US, I'd say it's worth it. Just don't play its multiplayer, and also don't buy the Switch version either. That version can go to hell because it doesn't run the best on Switch with its embarrassing amount of poppin' and low frame rate. Play the version on other platforms as it would probably just run better. And that's a wrap. So my thoughts on re-released Nintendo Switch games are purely determined by its fair amount of new exclusive content if it's a Wii U port, the kinds of games that are featured in game collections, and the same things that were mentioned for Wii U ports as the remakes. But those were just my thoughts. For anyone else, it's purely based on your own thoughts, whether you personally see value in the product or not, or whether you think the product has enough exclusive content to justify its price. It's really all determined by you. And if you see it as something that appeals to you or something that you see value in, then check it out. Again, it's all up to you. But now that I got that discussion out of the way, I'm gonna go buy a PlayStation 5 just in case Nintendo doesn't port over NES Remix Pack with an SNES counterpart. Damn it! But anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then please consider subscribing and checking out my other videos on my channel where you'll find more videos like this one. And I'll see you next time.